you know, he needs to be held accountable for it. You know, there's no two ways about it. Where is he? I'll say it again. Where is the geezer? So, you know, it is what it is. We've got to try and get on with our lives somehow and stop talking the same.
The worst for a very long time.
85 years.
We've actually lost 4 in a row, and therefore, whilst we're analysing why we lost that election.
The house building that I'm proposing at the start of conference that we'll be announcing more this week is about actually giving people secure futures and making sure that we can tackle things like child poverty.
Did you see Danny Dyer's face when Angela Rayner tried to defend Labour's housing plan? The tension was palpable as Dyer, known for his no-nonsense attitude, confronted the deputy leader of the Labour Party on live TV. Rayner stumbled through her responses, leaving viewers questioning Labour's commitment to the working class. As Dyer pressed on, it became clear that this wasn't just another political interview. It was a moment that could change the course of British politics. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. The studio lights glared as Danny Dyer and Angela Rayner faced off on live TV. Dyer, known for his East End charm and no-nonsense attitude, wasted no time getting to the heart of the matter. "Let's cut the crap, shall we?" he began, his eyes locked on Rayner. "What's Labour done for the working class lately?"
But we've had 13 years of Conservative failure, a crashed economy, so we're going to inherit a very difficult programme if we were lucky enough to win the next general election, and therefore we're realistic about what we're able to achieve, but we will change Britain for the better.
Well, the things that came up on the doors of 44 constituencies were, number one, the leadership, absolutely. Secondly, the Brexit position, that came up differently in different areas. What was said in the Midlands was different to what was said in Scotland.
More about Brexit on Good Evening Britain, and it went viral. And
Yeah.
you said about David Cameron with the shot us up. What are your thoughts now?
Quite poetic, that, wasn't it?
That was really poetic. That's done
Same
really
thing,
well
it's
for
the
us.
same thing, listen.
Are you bored? Are you really
Everyone
bored?
is, everyone is.
Rayner shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her usual confidence visibly shaken. As she launched into a rehearsed spiel about Labour's commitment to the people, Dyer's expression hardened. He wasn't buying it. "Hold on a minute," Dyer interjected, his voice cutting through Rayner's rhetoric. "You lot keep banging on about helping the little guy, but where's the proof?" The tension in the studio was palpable as Rayner struggled to find a convincing response. Dyer pressed on, touching a nerve that resonated with millions of viewers at home. "My old man was a Labour man, through and through. But he wouldn't recognise the party today. What happened to standing up for the grafters, the ones breaking their backs to make ends meet?" Rayner's discomfort was evident as she fumbled through statistics and policy points. But Dyer wasn't interested in numbers. He wanted answers that spoke to the heart of working-class frustrations. As the confrontation heated up, it became clear that Dyer was channeling the voice of a disillusioned electorate. His questions weren't just his own, they were the unspoken concerns of countless voters who felt left behind by Labour's shifting priorities. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. What would Dyer say next? How far would he push? The answer came in a moment that left the studio audience gasping. Leaning forward, his voice low and intense, Dyer delivered the knockout blow. "You know what, Angela? I reckon Labour's sold out. You've forgotten where you came from. And let me tell you, the working class won't forget that come election time." The accusation hung in the air, heavy and damning. Rayner's face paled as she realized the magnitude of what had just transpired. This wasn't just a TV interview gone wrong. It was a public indictment of Labour's perceived betrayal. Rayner's response never came. Instead, Danny Dyer shifted gears, unleashing a barrage of questions about Labour's housing promises. 1.5 million homes, you say? Sounds lovely, but who's getting the keys? The audience leaned in, sensing a bombshell was about to drop. Dyer didn't wait for an answer. He pressed on, revealing the controversy at the heart of Labour's ambitious housing plan. Word on the street is that 5 out of 7 of these new homes will go to migrants. That true, Angela? Rayner's face fell as she realized the trap she'd walked into. As Rayner fumbled for a response, it became clear she was out of her depth. She tried to deflect with vague promises and rehearse talking points, but Dyer wasn't having it. "Come on, Angela," he pressed. "Give us some straight answers. Where are these homes really going?" The disconnect between Labour's grand promises and their actual plans was on full display. Rayner's struggle to defend the numbers exposed a fundamental problem. Labour seemed to have lost touch with the very people they claimed to represent. For working-class voters watching at home, this moment resonated deeply. Many felt left behind by a party that once championed their cause. Now it seemed Labour was more interested in playing politics than addressing the real housing crisis affecting millions. As Dyer continued his relentless questioning, the tension in the studio was palpable. How would this affect Labour's credibility? The party that once prided itself on being the voice of the working class was now stumbling over basic questions about its flagship policy. Then came the knockout blow. Dyer revealed a damning statistic that cut to the heart of Labour's claims. Your own figures show that the majority of these new homes won't even go to the working class. How do you square that with your promises? Rayner's silence spoke volumes. In that moment, it became clear that Labour's housing plan was built on shaky foundations. The party's credibility was crumbling before the nation's eyes. Labour's leadership crisis runs deeper than botched policies. While Rayner struggled in the spotlight, her boss, Keir Starmer, was conspicuously absent. Is the party's top man dodging accountability, or is something even more troubling afoot in Labour's ranks? Danny Dyer's scathing critique of Keir Starmer's leadership hit home for many disgruntled Labour supporters. "I don't trust this man," Dyer declared, his words echoing the sentiments of countless voters. He got the job handed to him on a plate. This perception of Starmer as an accidental leader thrust into power without truly earning his position has dogged him since day one. Starmer's ascent to Labour leadership came at a tumultuous time for the party. With the Conservatives in disarray, he seemed like a safe pair of hands to steady the ship. But for many, this default selection has led to a leadership that lacks authenticity and passion. Starmer's actions since taking the helm have done little to dispel this notion. Time and again, Starmer has found himself out of step with the working-class voters Labour once championed. His cautious approach to opposition has left many wondering if he has the fire in his belly to truly challenge the government. When pressed on issues like housing, wages, and workers' rights, Starmer's responses often feel rehearsed and disconnected from the realities faced by ordinary people. This perceived disconnect has not gone unnoticed within Labour's ranks. Murmurs of discontent are growing louder, with party members questioning whether Starmer has what it takes to lead Labour back to power. Some argue that under his guidance, the party has drifted even further from its working-class roots, becoming a pale imitation of its former self. As the criticism mounts, a crucial question emerges. Is Starmer's position as leader at risk? The answer may lie in the party's internal polling, which paints a troubling picture for the Labour leader. Sources within the party reveal that support for Starmer is waning, with a significant portion of members expressing doubts about his effectiveness and vision for the future. These poll numbers are more than just figures on a page. They represent a crisis of confidence that could spell disaster for Labour's electoral prospects. If Starmer can't win over his own party, how can he hope to convince the broader electorate? The Labour Party's credibility has taken a massive hit, and it's not just because of Danny Dyer's confrontation with Angela Rayner. This TV clash was the spark that ignited a firestorm of public discontent. but the embers have been smouldering for years. Dyer's no-nonsense grilling exposed Labour's disconnect from its working-class roots, and the public reaction has been nothing short of brutal. Social media lit up like a Christmas tree after the interview, with viewers praising Dyer for asking the tough questions that mainstream journalists seem to avoid. Hashtags like Labour betrayal and working class heroes trended for days. But it's not just online chatter. Polls show a significant drop in Labour's support, particularly among their traditional voter base. This isn't an isolated incident. Labour's been losing touch with its core supporters for years, and this confrontation is just the latest in a long line of missteps. From flip-flopping on Brexit to watered-down promises on workers' rights, the party's been hemorrhaging credibility faster than a leaky faucet. Political experts are scratching their heads, trying to figure out Labour's next move. Some suggest a complete overhaul of the party's leadership and policies, while others argue for a return to grassroots campaigning. But with trust at an all-time low, it's going to take more than a few policy tweaks to win back disillusioned voters. The long-term consequences for Labour could be catastrophic. If they can't reconnect with their working-class base, they risk becoming politically irrelevant. We're talking about a party that was founded to represent the interests of ordinary workers, now struggling to even speak their language. It's a far cry from the days when Labour was seen as the champion of the people. Can Labour recover from this PR disaster? It's the million-pound question, and right now, the odds aren't looking good. The clock is ticking, and every day that passes without a clear strategy is another nail in the coffin of Labour's credibility. Here's the kicker. A recent poll shows a surprising shift in voter intentions. Traditional Labour strongholds are now considering alternatives, including fringe parties and independents. It's a seismic shift that could reshape British politics for generations to come. As we head into the next election cycle, one thing is clear: the political landscape in Britain is changing. The question now is whether Labour can adapt and survive, or if we're witnessing the slow death of a once great political institution.